Anne shook her head. Crikey. How does she do it? I haven't got one wedding ring on my finger, unlike the jewellery shop she's flaunting. Jane tugged on Kath's cardigan-clad arm and pointed to the diamonds that sparkled on Sylvia's fingers. Shimmering droplets hung from her ears and matched a large heart-shaped pendant necklace. "Why don't you ask her?" Kath said. She gripped her knees and clasped both hands around a cumbersome tote bag. "Look, she's coming over." They watched as Sylvia slipped away from her group and, fixing her cat-like green eyes on the three friends, headed in their direction. Kath shrank back, and Jane shuffled her cumbersome body. But Anne stood as tall as her 63 inches allowed and thrust out a hand. She gripped Sylvia's arm and stood on her toes to air-kiss both cheeks. "Sylvia Adams! We were just saying how marvellous you look," Anne exclaimed. "What a gorgeous dress!" "Harvey Nicks, Diane von Furstenberg. But you've added to the Adams with yet another surname." Anne glanced at the list on the table. "You're now Mrs. Adams Anstruther." "AA for short, darlings," Sylvia said, as she towered over Anne. "Goodness, I hardly recognise you all. It's Kath and Jane, isn't it?" Tilting her head, she fluttered false eyelashes. "To think we were all at school together." Sylvia studied Jane's shapeless tunic and wide, baggy trousers before treating Kath to the same critical gaze. "Not in the same class," Anne said, "but you were an A-stream girl like me." "Yes, I remember." Sylvia looked at Anne. "We A-streamers have certainly looked after ourselves." Her bright red lips curved into a smile, and she nodded with approval as she studied Anne from the top of her neat, side-swept updo to the tip of her animal print kitten heels. She turned to Kath. "You were in the B stream and always won a prize on sports day for hockey, a goalie, as I recall." Kath gripped her bag. Her lips were pursed as she listened to Sylvia. "I remember your unflattering padded shirt, belted trousers and steel-cap boots. Not a glamorous outfit." Sylvia grinned. "Unlike Anne and me, who wore short pleated skirts and neat navy knickers as we sped round the pitch." Sylvia turned to Jane, a puzzled expression barely cracking a line on her smooth forehead. "Jane," she began, "you never progressed higher than the D stream, rarely played hockey and always came last in the sack race." Kath felt Jane shuffle forward. Her legs were planted wide and her chair creaked. Tugging on Jane's tunic, Kath managed to stop her friend from rising to her feet. If Jane had a hockey stick in her hand, Sylvia would be on the receiving end of a forearm swing. "So, tell me, ladies, what are you up to after all these years?" Sylvia looked from one to another. "I've spent my career in aviation," Anne said. "I've travelled the world." "Ah, yes, I heard you were a trolley dolly." Sylvia was dismissive. "And recently divorced?" Barry and I decided to part company after a long marriage." Anne failed to admit that the errant husband she'd put up with for many years had recently disappeared with the ladies' captain of Garstang Golf Club. The two-timing rat now propped up the bar on the 19th hole at La Manga Club on the Costa Calida. "Barry Amberley," Sylvia pondered. "Very good-looking." She winked. "I remember him well. He was something on a flight deck. An airline captain who has finally flown away." Sylvia laughed. Anne tensed and wondered if Sylvia had enjoyed a fling with Barry. He'd slept with many women behind her back and most of the cabin crew working for the airline. "Kath, of course, has had a highly successful career in banking," Anne continued. "And Jane is the darling of the celebrity culinary world, having worked with some of the finest chefs in the country." Kath's jaw dropped, and Jane, who'd finished her wine, was wide-eyed. But Anne was not.